So I've been a
Thanks
bit.
to 3D printing.
Thanks to 3D printing, you're absolutely right. The tricks that I used to fix that camera light was literally stuff that I learned from resin printing. And
And model making.
the camera that I made that I fixed for myself also from printing. It just that particular skill set come from PLA printing. So
Mm-hmm.
Stealthy was cutting up with me the other day. She's like, I don't know many men that can literally weld plastic together. They don't have those kinds of devices laying around, but you have gotten so used to having that little thing that you're like, oh, I can repair that. Sand. you know?
Yeah. It's just plastic, and long as the plastic can weld to itself, it's like metal welding. It's like TIG welding. You take metal, you take hot, you take some flux, and you TIG weld all across it. It's just you're just welding, and the TIG stuff or the powder that's on it usually gets rid of any of the impurities or oxygen that could be formed around the weld and the metal when you're welding it onto something. Just like plastic, where you're just taking one plastic and literally heating it up and then putting another plastic, and then you're melting the plastics together. So it's a weld,
Yeah.
and that can help out a lot. And of course, be able to make models in any facet. It can be something as simple as making a circle inside of a circle, and as long as you have the dimensions correctly and the outer ridges, you're pretty much a simple thing. It's just put round circle into round circle.
And it's
Not putting
it
a
also
peg inside of a round circle.
it doesn't hurt if you got tools like I have a cheap caliper that I bought.
Yeah. Okay.
So I can walk up there and be like, 33 millimeters, cool. That's a circle, stretch it 33 millimeters, punch a hole in the middle. Look, I just made a bushing. You know?
Yeah, that's simple engineering, and I think anybody can do it. And if you don't have those skills, they really are not they're very hard at all. Like I used to work at a job where I had to measure holes all the time. It is really simple. It really isn't that hard. Once you learn how to read a tape measure and read some calibers, it's the tool does all the work for you. You just got to look at it. You just got to look at it and goes, oh, it says that, so it must be that.
Yep. Yeah. And make sure you keep your caliper zeroed out so that it reads accurately, because if you don't.
Oh yeah, those things will get will eventually be misaligned or miscalibrated. Also, tape measures are these things will also get decalibrated as well. Weirdly enough, because these little things at the end eventually the little things right here, the hooks will eventually uh
Start.
expand,
Yep.
and that's that little tiny measurement, that little tiny thing. That's enough to screw up a lot.
Yep. Yes. Especially in the 3D print world.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
or any metal making world that I was usually a part of. But for me this week we got my wife finding something she's been wanting for a while, and I'm totally found down for it. She pretty much got her printer,
yep.
but her printer is a Cricut.
Yep.
I think it's called a Cricut. It's Cricut 2. But this kind could do decals and cut out stickers and cut out things for T-shirts and all that stuff. So it cuts out like all of it for you, and also these little markers. Kind of weird, like markers. I don't get it. It can draw for you in a sense, but it can't print for you. But it can draw. It's kind of weird, but that's how I did this on my cup. We just one of my emotes, or my emotes, to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Grimmer Bear, by the way. And it says moist, and it's Grimmer Bear doing a dab, and we just cut it out on paper, on a sticky paper we have, and I just stuck it to my cup because I can. It's supposed to be waterproof. We'll see how far that goes, but we're supposed to be getting some real stuff. So real simple, but
So,
man, are those things expensive.
hey man, let me tell you something. Something else that's really nice is now you can officially make your own skins for your game consoles and your computers.
Oh yeah, I want to
Yeah,
badly.
like I want to send her dimensions so she can make me one. I got a laptop. I got a laptop back here to my left
Uh-huh.
that would love to have a skin on it.
Oh yeah. So it's something. It's it's things that we can start making merchandise myself, and that's something my wife has been hugely about. She wants to help me out more since she's not going to school right now. She wants to help out my channel. She's trying to learn how to edit it, but it's not very. She's not very good at it yet, because like I said before, editing anything is a pain in the ass.
Yes.
Even making thumbnails is a
Absolutely.
pain in the ass. So if anybody thinks it's really easy to pick up,
No.
no, it'll
No.
take you days and weeks, and even when you think you become good at it, you still could be better at it.
Yep.
Oh, we're gonna do all the stickers of my emotes, by the way. All the ones where he's like, he's drooling or troll face or a face. I'm gonna do all those because I don't know, it'd be something little interesting. Stay tuned. More information that later on. And I something like that. I'm kind of glad I learned how to do it, but I'm not really doing it. It's kind of like for 3D printing. I'm not doing it for making money off of it, though I can. I know I probably could make money off of making emotes for other people and other channels, but I don't really want to do it in a sense where I need to I'm doing it just purely for profit. Someone wants
Well,
to pay me,
it's
sure, I'll
it's
do it.
it's
But it's
like
not like a
it's like me. I deal with that at work every day. People come by, see some of the prints I have sitting around on my desk. They're like, "Hey, you want to print this for me? I'll pay you some money." Honestly, sometimes I say no. Sometimes I say yes. Depends on the mood I'm in. But usually the no's come from the place of this is my hobby. This is not something I want to turn into work because work is no longer fun. I want my hobby to stay fun. I've
yeah.
had I've had so many hobbies over the years that when I started out with them, they were great, they were fun, and then eventually they flow into somebody wanting me to do it for them, makes a little money, and then it turns into a job, and at that point, I'm not having fun anymore. I mean, that's kind of what happened with me in computer building. I started out building computers. I enjoyed building computers. I liked seeing, how far can I push it, how well can I build it, what can it do. Then it flowed over into people wanting me to build computers for them and set stuff up for them, and then it turned into an actual job, and then it stopped being fun because it started being about if you don't get this done just right, your customer's going to complain and they're going to be wanting their money back or this, that, and it's just the headaches that I don't want with my hobby.
Yeah, well, also I don't want to disappoint nobody, right?
Right.
Like with 3D printing, I know the most of the work with the 3D model is good. All I gotta make sure is my printer prints it. That's all I gotta worry about is making sure it prints it good and prints it right. But when it comes to making a emote or a thumbnail, I'm making that from the ground up. I am literally the foundation, and I am the structure. Then I am the end product, and I don't really think myself as a bad artist in any sense, but I don't know if I'm going to beat the quality that they're expecting it. But when
Right.
I see other people's quality, I go, I could do better though. But then, can I? And when I bring it to them and I go, yeah, mine's better, and they go, yeah, yours is actually worse. Then I'm gonna feel like it's like, really? I
Damn.
thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, right. So you don't want to put yourself in a place of disappointment because then it might take some of the enjoyment out of it. You don't want to disappoint them. There's a lot to it. People don't
And when it
get.
comes to money too, when money's involved, it's just a lot more pressure to it. A
Well,
lot more pressure.
yeah, and then you have to come up with that baseline. What do I charge? What is my base rate, and how do I expand on that? How do I, if this one's more complicated than the last, how do I explain it to the customer? You're going to get charged a little more because this. I mean, there's a lot to it, dude. There is a lot. Um, it's not something that you just wake up and be like, oh, I know all the answers. I can do this now. I mean, if that was the case, I'd own a bar downtown. I'd be cooking food for everybody and hanging out and having good drinks. But
Sure.
there's a lot of work to that. There's permits you have to get. There's certifications you have to get. There's business loans that have to be obtained. There's a place for it. There's a lot of stuff. Okay, now it doesn't. It
Uh,
of that video.
mm. But I hope it does. I think that's good stuff right there. I say it once, I say it 1,000 times. I think 3D printing can be Or it can be implemented in so many different ways. I've
Oh,
seen some people. What? Go ahead.
I have something to show you. Hold on.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna show them my little arts and crafts. I made sure this last week, but I finally got it done. This is a caster gun. For everybody does not know, this is a 3D printed model of a replica of my favorite anime, and I finally got it 100% done. Triggers there, the back sight's there, the front sight's there. This thing is ready to paint and going, and I'm elated. Also, this thing comes down, and this thing can be pulled out. So it's an actual, like, almost functioning in a sense of what it can do mechanically, just light-wise and some other mechanical things it's not capable of doing because it's supposed to be a solid piece.
Here you go.
In the model.
Something I printed for the Stealthy. I finally got all the stuff off of it.
Oh, that looks so nice.
It's beautiful.
Okay. It kind of reminds me of the like a bigger version of it, of the amoeba. Yeah, amoeba figurine from Twilight Princess. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody scanned it and then made it a thing by itself.
I mean, that thing looks awesome. She's got a little bit of sanding she's got left to do, but then she actually bought that kit that I told you about, the polishing kit.
Yeah.
She bought it. She's gonna put it on there.
Polish. She's gonna polish that. Okay.
Yep.
She's gonna keep it like it is.
Yep. So there's like this thing has 3 different compounds.
Yes.
And so you start out with a heavy grit paper with the first compound, and when you move to the second one, you get a little bit finer grit, and the last one it's like a wet sand almost, and then it has a spray. When you're done, you spray it.
Yeah.
And then you let it dry, and it looks. She did a little bit of a test on a piece. If I knew where it was, I'd show you. I mean, she didn't go into real heavy work on it.
Yeah.
But here we go. So when I first printed this, because it's part of the center of the Geo Oculus right here. When I first printed this, there was light could not pass through this thing. It was so dingy. And she has been working on it slowly. Dude, this right here is so smooth, it ain't even funny. It's like glass. So she hadn't sprayed the wet on there yet.
It's a smoky glass right now.
Right. So I'm thinking whenever she puts that wet on there, this thing's going to light up like a Christmas tree.
I hope so. Okay, so I think you sent it to me one time. Is it the one with the 3 different type of
yes, yeah,
bottles?
The 3 different bottles, yes.
Okay, so if everybody's understanding, think of it's not really actual sandpaper. It's like liquid sandpaper.
Well, what you're supposed to do is use sandpaper with it.
Oh, you're supposed to use 2 things on top of it? Okay.
So what you do is you put the first one on there and you use your heavier grit paper. Okay?
Rub it in.
And then you wipe it off. And then you put the second one on there and get a little bit finer grit and go over it. And then the last one is almost, you just do like a wet sand with it and then spray it with the clear. That's the third bottle, is kind of like a clear compound. You just spritz it.
Yeah.
And then, dude, it's amazing what it does.
Again, I want to try it out because I'm gonna print me another one of those Charizard ball ones because my wings broke, and see if it's able to give it the same effect without actually having to need to spray a clear paint of gloss on top of it. That stuff gets tacky, doesn't always dry right.
Yeah.
I try to, mist it and then wait for it and then mist it again. And it takes so much. And even then, it might turn out tacky or not fully hardened. It's just a pain in the butt. I could do it.
The thing about this, though, it's all about the buffing at the end. It's about the buffing. So when you sand it, you're supposed to buff it and then do the next one. Sand it and buff it. The problem is that you kind of need almost like a little Dremel tool with a buffing wheel on it to be able to buff it fast enough for it to make any real impact.
I can see that, and also fine details, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to go in with a big one, big old wheel, and go, "I hope you don't break." It's
Yeah.
like, these are smaller things. That's a big ass wheel. Like you might want to go.
And you were asking about the gun, so
Yes.
let me grab those parts.
And again, like while we 3D print these things for amusement, there are, like I said, there's actual factual things you can print to, like they just say that the camera that Corvo fixed, and another like a arm on it, or the light ring on it. You guys see it, but I did, and you can repair things, even refrigerator parts, and I've seen people fix door handles and car repair parts, and there's so many things. You just got to be willing to either find a prints of the models or make it yourself. And of course, I would say if anybody out there that's actually good at 3D modeling and you're not making no money and you want to get to gaming, get into gaming, try a little off business and make 3D models for 3D printers like me and Corvo. Trust me, we'll go there.
There's your barrel.
Mm-hmm.
So
you haven't got any further yet?
I've sanded. Yeah, I have. I'll show you the rest of it. So I sanded all of this. This is smooth. Okay. I'm not worried about clearing it because I'm going to paint it.
Yes.
Okay. And then I've printed some of the smaller components, but the most impressive thing, honestly, was the hammer. So I've printed the hammer for this thing. Guys,
oh, man, that is.
I don't know if you have seen an actual hammer to a revolver, or at least one of the older school revolvers, but if you look, it's got everything that is supposed to be on a real hammer. Like, if you put this in a functioning gun, it might not last very long, but it would function as long as you put a little metal nib right there.
I wonder if you could. Well, let's see. Here's my thought.
Tell me that that's not beautiful, though.
It's very pretty, but let me say, if you were to cast that, let's say, do a sand mold of that and cast it in some kind of steel or copper or iron or aluminum, and then the entire thing could it actually be a functioning, like maybe not a very long function, but could it be functioning as actually an actual gun? I don't know.
That's the trigger.
Very small trigger.
Yeah, well, those old guns were tiny triggers. Mm-hmm. Here is one of the pins for the gun. So you'll get the difficulty of how hard it was to get this right. I'm going to see if I can get up the camera. Can you see the slot?
No, it's so small in details.
Okay,
That's
so
small.
it literally has a perfect flathead slot in it, like it's supposed to. Mm-hmm. That's one of the pins. And then I have the other pins in my hand here.
Oh, don't lose them.
So you seen what they were in, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's very impressive. I hadn't printed anything else because I was moving stuff, but now it's set back up. So as soon as I can do what I like to call my cleanup, I think it's time to change my FIP film too, because it looks like it's gotten stretched a little, Yeah. Okay. As soon as I can get that done, then we'll finish up the rest of the parts. I'll get her all put together, and then I might do a stream in between the assembly of me painting them. Because I don't know if you can see real good, but the barrel alone has a crap load of detail. So there's rings right here. Mm-hmm. Those rings are silver. This is gold. And then all the rest of it is black except for the engraved lettering, which is also silver.
Yeah.
So that one piece, it's going to be a minute.
Could be a little brush.
Itty bitty brush. Like, there better be 2 hairs on that brush to do that scroll work.
Which, if anybody ever does get into resin printing and wants to know what I use for, because you can paint straight on top of resin if you want to, but okay. So for filament prints, I use a filler paint primer. But for resin, you have so many details on that thing, you don't want to mess up the details, and you don't want it to be thick stuff. I use Creality Max
Yep.
primer,
That's the same one I use.
gray primer. I use this one because this is a very light. It still primes. You still can get good details out of your stuff, and it won't go on thick. But it will get on there enough so you actually see all the details still, and you don't need that many coats, and it dries pretty fast, and it holds on to the print really well. And even then, like people think, oh, you don't need to sand resin. It's still best to just do it. You don't need to. It's just best because I showed that video of the card maker. The guy was literally taking prints right off the printer and washing them and cleaning them and all stuff like that, and then start painting them, and it was just fine. But I could still see the rings on it, and the little tiny small rings, and I could still see where the supports were attached to it.
And that's
little tiny.
I still say these things right here are like a miracle. You see how I'm holding this thing?
Yeah, like those little tiny things, like you won't be able to see it unless you get close. But I promise you, when you start painting it, they'll stick out like a sore thumb if you're not, if you're not doing it right. That's why, like, if you're really not gonna set it at all, maybe a filler primer would do that good for you. But promise, filler primer is pretty thick, so you might lose a little detail. It really is one of those things. It depends on the person and the commitment. Because I printed out pieces that I showed in the past really look like figurines, and I'm not jerking my own stuff off here. I feel like I'm getting better at it. It just 3D prints. Resin can be a little fragile if you over cure it.
Well, see, the nice thing about this rod is you see that tip. So when you're sanding, what goes into your engraving? All that dust. Well, this thing right here, I can just run right around and chase it out. And it comes right out, and you hit it with like a can of compressed air. Mm-hmm. And all you got to do, prime and paint, baby. And I hadn't told you this, but I literally have got the models. I found the models for the Demon Blade as well.
Yeah.
The Angel Blade, the Archangel Blade, and the First Blade.
Man, you went through all of it, didn't you?
I've got them all, and every one of them will be painted at some point, and every one of them will be on the wall. What I'm doing, and I know this sounds corny as hell. Yes, I'm a Supernatural fan, guys, in case you can't tell. But
I haven't finished it yet, so.
Sounds corny as shit, but as these weapons roll up in the series, I am printing them and putting them up. Right now, the Cult is the main focus. The Demon Blade has just showed up on the scene. It will get done next. And then you'll get your Angel Blade, your Archangel Blade, and then last it'll be the First Blade, because they don't bring the First Blade into it until way later in the series when they're dealing with Cain.
Oh, speaking of Cain, in the sense of it, did you see where I got in Castlevania last stream?
I seen that you were working towards getting to the Vampire Queen.
She's dead.
She's dead?
She's dead.
How did you enjoy her?
She was way easier than the Lycan.
Yeah, the Lycan was fast as shit. That was the problem with him. He was fast as crap.
And glad I didn't go vampire, because they are not attractive creatures when they transform, to say the least. I could definitely see the problem, prior to the transformation, but during transformation, I'm so glad he didn't take that bait, because that would have been a wake up in the morning and roll over situation and regret your life decisions. And I just got Baba her rose.
How did you like the Baba puzzles?
Baba wasn't bad.
Baba was a pain in the ass. I watched the stream when you were doing Baba. Baba's aggravating as hell.
It's just getting those musical tones in the right order to go the right directions was a bit of a trial and error, but I was in gamer sense mode, right? It was just like something like, I know how games think here. I know how they're gonna think here. So this is probably gonna go here. So I go there. Okay, let's try that one out. And, okay, didn't work. Change one thing. Okay, we're good. And it was pretty much that the entire round. It wasn't like this thing that I was like no, we don't do that. Then we just, to keep the pattern fairly simple so you don't go too buck wild. But I have to say I am looking forward to fighting death. I don't know how close I am to beating the game.
You think it's death? You think it's death?
Well, that's what he called him. The guy called him death.
The necromancer?
Yeah. Why did they call him death? I'm like, my brain is going. He's literally the physical thing of
no.
Death,
they call him death because he's a necromancer. So like you fought a werewolf, you fought a vampire. Now you've got to deal with a necromancer. And boy, let me tell you, the necromancer, he's a pain in the ass, but he's not the one you got to worry about.
Okay, so there is another boss past it.
Oh yes, there is, in theological terms, the ultimate boss.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Before I get all parts of the mass and become literally God's right hand.
You're gonna have to. It's gonna be Lucy. Stop hitting me.
I had more problem with the little robot Frankenstein fetus.
Yeah.
Than I almost had with beating the vampire queen at one time. I'm like, this little thing doesn't want to just die.
Here's what I find hilarious. So of all the things you fight, all the way up to the last thing, the thing that they make you become is literally a vampire.
Yeah, when she said you once become us eventually, I'm like, technically that's true.